All right, let's talk about the climate. This is my third issue video. I mean, it's a big one. And I'm going to say out front that this is probably the area in the issue that I know least about. I don't like science. I never did. Just, yeah, I mean, that's it. That's no follow up to that. Just, I don't love science. And so, in terms of the climate science, I don't know a lot about it. And so, I'm not going to explain it to you. Fortunately, however, there are thousands, if not millions, of people who do like science and who are very good at this. And they have shown us periodically throughout the decades what's happening. And I'm going to say that we should just listen to them. Let's just trust the scientists, you know? They seem to know what they're talking about. And we, all people who are non-scientists, also understand what they're talking about because we live in the world and we live amongst wildfires and ash rain floods and polar vortexes. And we know that something's up. Again, it doesn't take a scientist to be able to tell that the earth is crying. She's weeping. And what is the reason behind that? Well, that's where the scientists come in, right? That's the rising CO2 level, increasing amounts of carbon dioxide, rising sea levels, ice caps melting. Right? We got it. We know it. It's done. Here's where it gets messy. So for years, the Republican line was that global warming was a hoax, right? How can it be global warming when it's freezing temperatures? This is one of those arguments that made me very angry. But whatever, I digress. So they were like, it's a hoax. And then finally they moved on to, okay, it's not a hoax, but it might not be man-made, or we don't know what the issue is. And at this point, granted, there are still those holding on to it's a hoax mentality, but for the most part, the intellectual discussion is not whether climate change is real or not. We've gone past that. What the actual conversation now is regulation versus not regulation. So essentially where the Republicans fall is that while climate change might be an issue, imposing regulations are unnecessary and they prevent the US from becoming energy independent. Layered on top of that is also that in order to keep energy prices low, we have to invest in oil and gas and coal. So basically they're like, regulation is bad because it doesn't work. And it prevents the US from being energy independent, and it increases our cost of energy. It's not like a bad argument, right? It's like, no, I get that. I see, and you can see why and where they're coming from, right? It's like they're appealing to these people whose lives are coal, whose lives are oil and gas. And they're like, and whose lives are energy. Like what are we going to do if we just strip away all of our energy and then all of a sudden you have to pay 5 times as much for solar, in order for us to like get batteries and like, kumbaya it. And that's the way that they're phrasing it, right? And then the Democrats are coming along and they're like, no, 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 it's real, it's happening. We have to regulate oil and gas. We have to impose, carbon dioxide emission standards. We have to impose clean air regulations. We have to recycle. We have to compost. And they're like, we've got to do all of this stuff. And that's basically the debate that we have right now, right? It's like, moms are like, no, energy independence, no regulation that doesn't, like, a no unnecessary regulation that doesn't actually do anything, and keep energy costs low. And the Democrats are like, regulate, lower your carbon dioxide emissions to this amount, and, recycle and give us back and all this stuff. Now, so this is the debate that we're having right now. And this debate is valid if it was 2000 or 2003 or really even 2010. But that ship has flown, my friend. We are so past this argument of regulation versus not regulation that it's almost comical that our politicians are still having this discussion. It's like, I can't even come up with a good metaphor for it, because that's how dumb it is that we can't regulate our way out of this shit. You can't just impose like a couple of, like carbon taxes, like, sure. Again, yeah. If it was 2002, we could absolutely impose carbon taxes, and that might actually make a dent. But this isn't where we're at right now. Our planet is bleeding. She's crying. And at this stage, regulation is like a cute idea, but it's not going to fix it. So, what's going to fix it? So this is where we get the idea of regenerative economy versus extractive economy. And if that's something that you haven't heard about, it's understandable, right? I mean, because you're not being taught that in schools. So what exactly is it? Now, I touched upon this in the economy video, and this idea that there is a natural life cycle to things, right? And they grow, and they decay and compost, and that compost provides energy for new growth, and they regrow, right? And it's a cycle. And what we have here in this country is an economy and a life and a society built off of colonialization, subjugation, and extraction. And so what ends up happening is that we take from the planet, we take from the earth, we take from animals, we take from creatures, we take from humans, we take from women, and we take. And we don't give back. And when you take without giving back, that's what extraction is. And that's what our economy is, right? It's built on this idea that growth is the only thing that you want. And that's the North Star. So if you're always going for growth, right, and you're always going for this expand at all costs, unlimited energy, whatever, low prices, unlimited cheap energy, then what's going to happen? What happens if you have unlimited growth? Well, eventually, the bubble pops. The dam breaks. The insert metaphor of choice here, right? Because it's not sustainable. Because unlimited growth isn't a thing. It's not sustainable. So eventually, the empire falls. And this is where we're at right now, right? Is that we can course correct and we can do something to make our lives sustainable, or we can just allow it to fall and shatter. What's going to happen? So I'd say that instead of allowing this empire to collapse, we make it not an empire. We make different choices, right? We choose to be a different type of economy. So what does that economy look like? Now, this is where the experts come in, right? The book that I'm going to plug here, and I should have said this at the top, because who stuck around this long? But I should have said this at the top. The book that everybody should read is What If We Get It Right by Ayanna Elizabeth Johnson. And I made sure to look up her name before I shot this video because I wanted to make sure it was right. I would have gotten it wrong. But Ayanna Elizabeth Johnson has written this book called What If We Get It Right? And this is what everybody needs to read, because it is a holistic view on what happens if we move away from this idea of extracting and taking away at all costs and for a sole reason of growth, and we move towards a regenerative, cyclical economy and society. Because that's the climate issue, right? The climate issue is embedded in the colonialism and the extractive economy and the AI regulation. It's the symptom, right? Climate change is not the problem, it's the symptom of the socio-political economy that we have right now. And so in order to fix it, you really have to go way, way back. And you have to start with, how do we live in conjunction and with nature and animals and creatures. It's this, it's like it's the difference between receiving and taking. You when you receive a gift, then you bring it in and you express your gratitude. And then at some point down the line, you give, right? And it's a cycle, and it becomes a cycle of receiving and giving and receiving and giving. When you take, you forcefully take something from somebody. You take their bodily autonomy. You take their control over their time. You take their health. You take their livelihood. You are taking from them. And this is what the European settlers have done from the beginning in this country, is that they showed up and they took. And they took people away from their homes and they forced them into servitude. And they took women and they took women's bodies and they controlled them. And they did that to the land, and they did that to animals, and they did that to everybody. And so this is the world, this is how the world was built. So in order to stop climate, you have to build a different world. How do we do that? Well, fortunately, for all of us, there are people who know how to do that. And there are people that have been doing this for thousands of years. And they are the keepers of the knowledge and the culture and the traditions of how to live in community with nature. And over the past 600 years, they have been fighting like hell to maintain that knowledge and that culture and that tradition. And at this point, every single one of us in the US should be down on our knees begging the Native Americans for their knowledge and their examples and their understanding. They are the ones that know how to live in a world that values nature and creatures. And they know how to do it on this land, in this water table. So let's just ask them. Don't ask me. I don't know. But they do. And they have been, as I said, fighting like hell to keep this knowledge for us. For us, people. The people who live on this land. So the conversation and the debate for me over regulation or recycling or deregulation or whatever is done. Right now, the debate needs to be, tell us what to do. Show us the way. Let's follow your lead. Now, how that translates into a political slogan, stop extraction, start regulation. I think that's one. But I think really it's just electing state legislators. We all have native populations in our states, and I think it's really starting there. And let's find them, and let's ask them, and let's talk to them, and let's have them tell us what to do. When you prioritize economic growth over everything else, then what ends up happening is that the other things don't get the resources and attention. And the other things are health of humans, wellness of the planet, the existence of animals. When you're doing everything just to get to growth and GDP and output and more money, then all these other things end up falling behind. And let me just say, as I cap this off, this argument that energy prices need to stay low, and that if you start trying to switch to renewable, sustainable energy, is that it's going to increase everybody's energy costs, is a really, really shitty argument. It goes along with what I was saying about the economy, right? It's like, you're the fucking government. No. You control the prices. You can control the energy prices. You can put money into creating solar farms and wind farms, or whatever else it is, right? This is what China's done. But to say that, oh my God, if we invest in this, all your energy costs are going to go up, is such a shitty cop-out, because it makes it feel like you have no control over these things. But you do. Again, you're the largest, most powerful country, wealthiest country in the freaking history. So it's just not an argument that I think has any merit. Because if the political will is there, we can keep energy price, and also, as I mentioned, it's like, if you're getting free childcare and free healthcare and your rent is payable, then you're really not going to give a fuck if you have to pay an extra $100 for your energy. It's just like, this isn't a thing. This is not a world where it's like, oh, your energy costs are going to go up, but so is everything else. It's just, it's such an elementary argument that it really bothers me, obviously. But again, I digress. Point being, bring it back. The book to read is What If We Get It Right? Stop extraction, start regeneration. Ask the natives what to do. And that sums it up. You're welcome.